Welcome to a place where hearts unwind, infinite threads that gently bind, love and compassion in every line. Together we rise through space and time.
Hey, welcome back to Infinite Threads. I'm your host, Bob. There's a kind of power in the world that rarely announces itself. It doesn't arrive with headlines. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't try to dominate a room or prove itself to anyone. And yet, when it is present, people feel it. You may have met someone like this before. A person whose presence seems to calm the space around them. A person who listens more than they speak, but when they do speak, their words carry weight. A person who doesn't seem easily pulled into anger, gossip, or the emotional storms that sometimes sweep through groups of people. They're not perfect. They still have difficult days like everyone else. But there is something steady about them, something grounded. And when you leave a conversation with them, you often feel a little lighter than you did before. For a long time, I wondered what creates people like that. They really interested me. Was it personality? Was it wisdom that only comes with age? Or was it simply luck, a life that somehow unfolded more gently for them? But the more I've reflected on the journey of compassion and love over these past years, the more I've come to see something else. People like that are often the ones who have made a quiet decision about how they will move through the world. They have decided that love will be their posture. Not sentimental love, not the kind that only appears when life is comfortable, but the steady choice to meet people with patience, understanding, and humanity whenever possible. And that choice, repeated over time, begins to shape a person. It shapes the way they respond when tension enters a conversation. It shapes the way they treat people who disagree with them. It shapes the way they carry themselves through both joyful moments and difficult ones. Because when love becomes a daily practice instead of an occasional reaction, it slowly changes the emotional climate inside a person. They become less reactive, less eager to prove themselves right, less interested in escalating conflict. Instead, they begin holding space for understanding. They become someone who can remain steady while others are losing their footing. And that steadiness has an effect. People notice it. Not consciously at first, but they feel it. In a tense conversation, the person who remains calm often becomes the anchor for everyone else. In a heated moment, the person who refuses to answer anger with anger can quietly change the direction of the entire exchange. In a group where frustration is building, the person who introduces patience can lower the emotional temperature of a whole room. And this is where the quiet power of loving life begins to show itself. Because power doesn't always look like control. Sometimes power looks like stability. Sometimes it looks like emotional resilience. Sometimes it looks like the ability to remain compassionate even when the moment makes that difficult. The world is full of people trying to win arguments, full of people trying to dominate conversations, and full of people trying to prove their strength by being louder or harsher than the person in front of them. But the person who practices love daily is playing a different kind of game. They're not trying to overpower anyone. They're trying to keep the thread intact. They're trying to leave each interaction just a little more human than they found it. And over time, that way of living becomes something larger than a philosophy. It becomes a presence. People trust them more. People open up to them more easily. People feel safer sharing their real thoughts and struggles in their company because they sense that they are standing in the presence of someone who is not trying to win, but trying to understand. And in a world that often feels tense and divided, that kind of presence is incredibly powerful. Not because it forces change, but because it invites it. It reminds people of the better version of themselves they sometimes forget they still carry. And perhaps that is the quiet power of a loving life. It doesn't conquer the world. It steadies it. One conversation at a time. One moment of patience at a time. One decision to keep the thread alive, even when the moment makes that choice difficult. Because every time someone chooses love in a tense moment, something important happens. The world becomes just a little more livable for the people standing inside it. And if enough of us keep making that choice, the quiet power of love may turn out to be stronger than we ever imagined. I love you all very, very much. And you know what I need you to do. Go out and pass that on, okay? Later, Gators. Bye-bye.